Unity of Houston is an inclusive church where we seek to understand and live the teachings of Jesus and other spiritual masters. At Unity, we welcome all people from all spiritual paths and every walk of life. We celebrate the diversity of our city and of our world, and we teach love, tolerance, and oneness, seeking to live in harmony with open minds and open hearts.
Wherever you are in your spiritual path, you are always welcome at Unity. Join us and discover that the life of your dreams is already within you.
Well, thank you all for all your prayers. I was sorry to have to miss last week. I've been in a relationship with a virus for the last couple of weeks, and it's been really, really interesting. And I don't want to talk about it anymore. So, and Stacy, didn't Reverend Stacy do a great job just stepping in last minute? So wonderful. We have an incredible team on this ministry. There was a young Scottish man who from the Highlands who got a university scholarship to England and hadn't spent a lot of time there, and he went, and his mother was a little worried about him, so she decided to travel down and just check in on her baby boy and see how he's doing. And I will not be affecting a Scottish brogue as I tell this joke. You're welcome. And she said, "Well, tell me, son, how is it living among the English?" And he said, "Well, Mother, they're very, very noisy. Every night, my neighbor on my right, he bangs his head against the wall all night long. And on my left, the person is screaming all night long." She said, "Oh, son, these noisy, inconsiderate English. Well, tell me, what do you do?" And he says, "Well, I ignore it. I sit quietly and play my bagpipes." The joke has a point. We see things from our perspective, and we forget. And I love that song, and we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. What if God was one of us? What if the essence of the divine expressed and existed in every being that we meet? Not just human beings, but all animals, all plants, all of the mineral beings. What if God is in all of it? If we knew that, would we still be complaining as much, I wonder? Would we still be in opposition in our thoughts and our words as much if we really remembered that we're all in this together, doing our best? I love the phrase, trying to get home. That's, Ram Dass says that we're all walking each other home. So I am so grateful that we are so wise here at Unity of Houston. We had chosen to do our January series on this wonderful book, A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle, and just something that Stacy and I have both had a lot of experience with in the past. Really like we did his Power of Now last summer. And we must have been picking up on the Oprah vibe, because for the first time in her history, she has selected a book twice for her book club. And right now, she's doing A New Earth again. And on Wednesday, I got to watch an interview with Eckhart Tolle and Oprah, and it was at a Starbucks. Starbucks is sponsoring. But it was really interesting to hear 20 years later how this material continues to evolve and resonate in human beings. So our title is the subtitle of the book, Awakening to Life's Purpose. And today, this is the title. It's one of the sections. Chapters 2 and 3 in the book are really about the ego. And the title today is The Many Faces of the Ego. In that the interview from this week, Oprah said it 4 times. She said, "I have interviewed hundreds of spiritual teachers, and Eckhart is the only one I've ever seen who literally has no ego. He has no ego." And I was watching myself, really? Which I realized was my ego, judging her statement. And Eckhart says in the book that if you say, "I'm going to get rid of my ego," that's your ego talking. And what I noticed, his response to every time she said it, he didn't do what I would have done. It's like, "Oh, no, don't say that. That's the ego." And he didn't agree and say, "You're right." He just sat there being present. It's like, maybe she's right. Maybe he has really come to a different place in understanding what the ego is. The ego, the word, it's only 3 little letters, but it's very problematic because I'm going to start off by defining what it is. And depending upon the context and what field of study we're in, it has different meanings. The common usage says that the ego is a person's sense of self-esteem or self-importance. Okay? In psychiatry, it's the part of the mind that mediates between the conscious and the unconscious and is responsible for reality testing and a strong sense of personal identity. In philosophy, particularly in the metaphysics of philosophy, it's a conscious thinking subject is the ego. And none of those are really what Eckhart Tolle is talking about. And also in A Course in Miracles and in recovery work, the word is used a lot. And I think on the spiritual setting, this is the context, this is my definition of what I think the ego is, and I picked this up from different places, but I think this is close. It's any part of our identity that doesn't know we are one with God. And there's a little acronym that I learned actually in recovery, EGO, edging God out. So I want to say that from a psychological perspective, you need a healthy ego. You need one to be able to navigate this world and know what's your part and what's not, to be able to know where you end and somebody else begins. And I want to say, too, that the people who are narcissistic and arrogant and bombastic, you would think that's a strong ego. It's not. That's a weak ego structure from the psychological perspective. And so what we want is a strong and healthy psychological ego. And what we want in our spiritual sense is to, if we're talking about the ego, know that it's just that part of us that doesn't know it's one with God. And in unity, that's our name, that's our theology, that's our teaching, that's our practice. It's all intended, it's to help us come back to this truth that right where I am is the presence of God. This is what Eckhart Tolle writes about it. Most people are still completely identified with the incessant stream of mind, of compulsive thinking, most of it repetitive and pointless. There is no I apart from their thought processes and the emotions that go with them. This is the meaning of being spiritually unconscious. Are you aware that the voice in your head is not who you are? And if you're not, you just learned a new important thing. The voice that is constantly judging the way people are driving on the freeway. The voice that is criticizing yourself because, why did I wear this today? Why did I say that? That voice that speaks, and for me, and I think most of us, it is a constant commentary on the state of the world and all of my experiences. There's just this running monologue about, well, that was dumb. Way to go, Texans. I mean, it was like all of those things just happening in my mind, and it's so easy to think that that's me. But it's not. And Eckhart is right when he says that is being spiritually unconscious. All of the deep teachings, particularly those that have a mystical branch or mystical bent, understand this deeply. And they teach us that though I have a mind, I am not my mind. Though I have a body, I am not my body. What am I? Awareness. Consciousness. There was a Buddhist teacher who first gave me this metaphor. I don't know who created it, maybe the Buddha himself, that said that the awareness is the empty blue sky, and my thoughts are the clouds that pass across. But I can chase those thoughts and follow them and identify with them, and I will begin to think that I am my thoughts. I am my mind, I am my opinions, I am my experience, I am my history. I am that. And what we want to do continually is come back to this truth. I am one with God. Right where I am is infinite potential, divine creative intelligence. This is what I am. I'm aware of this flowering of spirit, this becomingness of God. That's what I am, and that's what you are. And so we have so many tools of affirmation and affirmative prayer and meditation, all of these ways that we try to bring ourselves back to the awareness of the indwelling presence. That's the work that we do. And we forget. There is an evolutionary process involved here too. I've shared before, I've done talks on the four kingdoms of consciousness as it's created by Marcia Sutton and Lloyd Strom. Michael Beckwith has the same language. He calls it the four stages of consciousness. But it's real simple to remember. To me, by me, through me, as me. And those are levels of consciousness we can attain. The first, to me, I am a victim of circumstance. It's all happening to me. Oh. Have any of you ever spent any time in to me consciousness? I sure have. As a matter of fact, I might just get back on there on the 59 freeway today. You never know. It happens pretty quickly. I just slink back into it. Why are they doing this to me? Then we come to a unity church or another New Thought community, and we're given this teaching, no, you're one with God. You have the power of your word can create new experiences. And then we begin to direct the ceaseless flow of divine creative energy, and we can manifest amazing things. It's beginning to happen by me. Start to feel pretty good. What I have learned is that both of those stages are still active and present in me. There's a lot of ego in both of those, or the potential for a lot of ego in both of those. The third level of consciousness is through me, where I begin to recognize that there is the greater life, the life of spirit, is happening through me, expressing as my individualization of itself. I am one with God, and yet a unique flavor. I'm a unique, never before seen, unrepeatable, irreplaceable expression of this one. But it's coming through me. I've had moments when I was singing, maybe a song I've written, maybe one that Ricky Byers wrote, I don't know, it would just be in it, and then all of a sudden it's like I disappeared. And I could hold that note as long as it wanted to be held, and it was just, I was in it, I could feel the energy just emanating through me. Now, it's using my voice, it's using my choice to choose this song, and even to sing it in a certain way, but it is not, there's no ego in it. I have gotten out of the way and let this flow of the Holy Spirit come through me. You've had that too. Maybe not singing a song, but maybe doing something that you love, holding your grandchild, digging weeds out of the garden, making a great meal, doing a project at work that you know is going to be so helpful to so many people. I don't know what it is for you, but you've had moments when time kind of disappears a little bit, where something, it's like you disappear, but you're more present. It's this paradox, isn't it? That is the third stage of consciousness, called through me. And I think that's where we want to be living, more and more. As we take up these practices and these healing tools, and I use a lot of them, I say I'm very high maintenance. It has required a lot to get me to look this good, spiritually speaking. Because, I've had an addiction and recovery story that's still an active part of my spiritual work. I've done therapy since I was 19 years old, and I currently am not, but I have somebody on speed dial. And maybe that'll happen today too, I don't know. And this teaching that we call New Thought, metaphysics, that I begin to, time and time again, come back to that practice. I am one with God. I am not my thoughts. I'm having a lot of thoughts. I'm not that. And after a while, our consciousness rises into this new place of and I think Eckhart is there, and maybe even in Kingdom 4, which is as me. Now, the person, there's a little New Thought controversy about this. Dr. Lloyd Strom, who created the four kingdoms of consciousness, he studied brain science and also spiral dynamics and the integral work from Ken Wilber. And there is an experience there called the stage state confusion. And what Dr. Lloyd said was that I don't think we ever actually fully attain Kingdom 4, where I recognize what's happening here is spirit as me, but we have mystical moments. Another teacher said it's like we poke our head up into that space where I completely disappear and I am one with the infinite, and there is no me there. I don't have anything to say about it, because that's not where I live. But I know that there is no ego there to distract us, and I know it is the deepest truth of who we are. But if we can continue just to work, and it is work, and you know, one of these days I'm going to do a sermon series on work, because it's gotten a bad name. Work is wonderful. Work is great. Think about a work of art. Think about bringing your effort and your will and your talent and your willingness to create something. That's what work is. And what if you did that to your own life, to your own consciousness? Think of the work in spirit to rise and to raise myself above these old beliefs and identities and all of that. That's wonderful work. And I'm committed to it for me, and I'm committed to creating spaces where you can do that in our community. And why? Because it is the truth. This is Romans 8, verses 38 and 39. For I am persuaded that neither death nor life, nor angels, nor principalities, nor powers, nor things present, nor things to come, nor height, nor depth, nor any created thing shall be able to separate us from the love of God. Paul had some mystical moments in his writing, and that's one of them. Nothing can separate us from this infinite love and creativity that is God. But there is something in the way, and it's called your ego. That part of us spiritually that wants to separate us, that wants to judge and compare. And so we need a way to get beyond the ego. So here is my second point. The first was to define the ego. My second point is this: awareness is the door. Awareness is the door. Remember, awareness is what we truly are. When you're having an ego moment, how soon do you realize you're doing it? Is it next week? Is it maybe after? You know, there's a wonderful phrase in French, I forget what it is in French, but it's up the stairs, where you think of what you should have said in that conversation, you didn't, and you did it later, and you go, oh, up the stairs. What if we could be aware when we're in our ego sooner? And maybe that's all we have to do. Maybe all we have to do is just become aware, conscious of it. And this is what Eckhart Tolle says about this. I embodies the primordial error, a misperception of who you are, an illusory sense of identity. This is the ego. This illusory sense of the self is what Albert Einstein, who had deep insights not only into the reality of space and time, but also into human nature, referred to as, I love this, an optical illusion of consciousness. The good news is, if you can recognize illusion as illusion, it dissolves. If you can recognize that the thoughts you're thinking aren't true, they're just the thoughts you're thinking, then that ego attachment, that ego identification just begins to dissolve. That's not who I am. It's not who you are. But it is persistent. The ego has so many tricks, so many faces that it wears, so many roles that we are compelled or tempted into living. The victim. Why am I raising my hand? The villain. These are ego roles. Yeah. When I was a kid, I would often, as my mother would say, I would bull up. You know what that phrase is? Maybe it's an Oklahoma thing. I would pout. When things weren't going my way, I would just... She's like, you're going to step on that lip if you're not careful, boy. But it was a victim consciousness that I learned early on. Why are they doing this to me? And the work in, so much of my life has been healing my old childhood beliefs, you know? My friend Kathy Hearn says that false beliefs are formed in a child's mind in response to an adult situation. So much of our personality is formed around things we didn't really understand, and we children are wonderfully egocentric. It's all about them, and we were that way. And so much of what our thought structures and the systems of belief and identity it's not true, but it's been with us for our entire lives. And so bringing awareness to it is a lifetime of work as well. And I want to say, as we're talking about purpose, and next week I'll be speaking more about what your purpose is and what my purpose is, I will tell you this: your purpose is not a role you're going to play. It's not something you're going to become and then step into and do. Your purpose is to be your authentic self, to be the most essential being of your creation. That's what your purpose is, and it will take on forms. There will be songs you sing and plays you write, whatever those things are. But that's not the purpose. The purpose is you, being you as fully as you're able. So I'm going to just share some great questions from the book, and I invite you just to open and listen and see if any of these kind of ring a bell for you. These, what does he call this? This is an opportunity to give up role playing. So you don't have to close your eyes, but just listen with some openness and just see if you've ever experienced this. There is something that needs to happen in my life before I can be at peace. Something happened in the past that should not have happened, and I resent that. If that had not happened, I would be at peace. Something is happening right now that should not be happening, and it is preventing me from being at peace now. And often the unconscious beliefs are directed towards a person. So we might say something, have a thought like this: you should do this or that so that I can be at peace. Something you did, said, or failed to do in the past is preventing me from being at peace right now. What you are doing or failing to do now is preventing me from being at peace. My friend Cynthia Rexroth once said in a sermon, I had given something, as she said, "Preacher, you done quit preaching and gone to meddling now." Do any of you have any resonance with those thoughts? Maybe not now, but in the past, can you recognize that, that I've blamed others and myself and circumstances, and I'm at war with what is. And I can't be at peace until what is isn't that. And the spiritual invitation is to let that go. That's all the ego, who thinks it ought to be the way you think it ought to be. What if life is unfolding perfectly for you now? This is just the example that comes to top of mind, but I know my Pentecostal prayer warrior mama tried to pray me out of alcoholism for decades. But what if that was the path of my becoming? Well, it turns out that it was, because it led me to recovery. It led me to a rubber meets road, grounded spirituality that I needed to navigate this world and to discover my true connection with God. God, what's that old song? I bless God for the country. No, I'm not going to remember it. Country music is not my thing. That's the one. Thank you so much. God bless the broken roads that led me straight to you. I thank God for unanswered prayers is another one. But that's it. Looking back, we can usually see that, right? I love what Reverend Shirley said when you were doing the announcement for the grief group. I wouldn't have chosen this path. But it's been beautiful, and it has revealed so much truth. So what if that's happening right now? Nobody is against you. Nothing needed to happen that didn't happen. Nothing is happening that shouldn't be happening. Right now, you are invited into the peace of God. What if that? And so my last point today is that it is perfectly imperfect. You are perfectly imperfect. I am perfectly imperfect. I had a conversation with my dear prayer partner, Maggie Cole, yesterday. She had the norovirus that's been going around. I had this respiratory virus that's been going around. We didn't have a talk for a couple of weeks, and we weren't ready to talk on Thursday either, but we talked yesterday before the Texans game. That's a safe place to let my ego out. I love sports. I don't want to be Eckhart Tolle because I want to still enjoy a good football game. But we were talking about, there's something I learned recently. My favorite Enneagram teacher right now, Beatrice Chestnut from the Bay Area, and it wasn't her phrase, but she delivered it kind of offhanded, and it just blew my head off. She said, our personality, whatever these types are, it's our defense against love. I was like, what? Our defense against love? Why would I ever want to be defended against love? I thought about it, and I was like, that's exactly right. When I was a child, nobody had to tell me that there was something fundamentally wrong with me, but I knew it. I could tell that the way I was showing up didn't work. I was kind of a sissy kid. I liked hanging out with my girl cousins. I wanted to play with their dolls. I was different from the cultural norms that boys are supposed to have. And nobody shamed me openly about it. I've talked about the doll story with my dad. I'm not going to go. There were lots of stories like that in my childhood. Somehow, I picked up this message that I am fundamentally broken and flawed. And so I began to protect myself. I created systems of being and altering and editing who I was so that I would be safe. And my personality got formed around that. A particular one around the Enneagram 3s is that our value and our worth is in what we can accomplish and how we succeed. But you see, it was a defense against love because I wasn't able to be who I really was for many years. And that has been the work of my life, to unwind and uncover that essentially, at essence, I am whole and perfect and really imperfect. And this is the invitation for all of us. And Maggie and I, we were talking about the growth that each of us has done. And she's 84 and continues just to work with her life and what comes up and do deep healing work. And she said, I've healed enough to know that I want more. And I said, I have gained enough freedom to know I want more. And so while we are right now, without having to do another lick of spiritual work, you are already whole, perfect, and complete. You still want to evolve. You still want to heal. You want to reveal more of your essential self. And it's never going to end, I don't believe. I don't know how the whole system of lifetimes and reincarnation, I don't know how any of that works, but I know that God is eternal. We're part of God. And so we will be forever deepening into God. So my sense is there's always going to be stuff we're letting go of to reveal more of the essential divinity that we are. And it's a good thing. A few weeks ago, Donna and Eileen and Marianne and Lilia, we went to hospice for our dear Manny Morales. It was just a couple of days before his life completed here. Choir member, hairdresser to half the women in this church. Just an amazing, amazing person. And we spent, a couple of hours with him, and we sang some Catholic songs I didn't know. Thank you, Harvey Sisters, for... I found my harmony part in there, though. And he talked about some regrets, but mostly he talked about he was at peace with all of it. And I've been reflecting on that afternoon that we spent with him. And we're going to have a wonderful memorial service for him in a few weeks. And he already picked the music. It's going to be great. Was there more work Manny could have done before laying that body down? Maybe. But it was so clear, the perfection of the end of his life. Because right where he was, the wholeness of God revealed itself to him and through him. There's no finish line. There's work to be done. There's healing to occur, but we're never going to be complete. And isn't that wonderful? Because freedom is good, and I want more of it. Wholeness is good, and I want more of it. Love is good, and I want more of it. And it is the invitation. Whatever it is that is calling to you, it's already within you. We're not bad getting good. We're not sick getting well. We're not lost getting saved. We are whole and revealing more and more of our wholeness. You are a masterpiece, just not quite finished. Pray with me now. A work of art, a work of the becomingness of God. That's what each of us is, that we are here revealing light, revealing love and freedom and joy and peace. Knowing that nothing can separate us from the love of God, I speak my word for every person within the sound of my voice. That right now healing is occurring, revelation is at hand. There is a new freedom. Something old is being released and forgotten. Some old limiting idea and belief is no longer useful. It is seen and it dissolves in the light of consciousness. Right now, we are rising in the light of God. That we are. We are finding a peace that passes understanding. Even as we navigate those difficult and thorny situations in our life, peace, peace, peace is at hand. And without having to know how it's going to turn out, we know that it's good. And so we continue to live our lives and do our work and love those that are in our lives to love and let them love us just as we are. Let them love us just as we are. And by and by, day by day, year by year, we shine more and more, gaining more and more freedom and well-being. And when the time comes for us to breathe our last breath, we know the peace of God is at hand. And we go on in God, in life, in light. How grateful we are. And so it is. Amen. There is a tenderness in the room today. I'm not sure exactly what this means. There was a tenderness in the room. But I feel this connection. I feel this openness. Something is opening within us. This is a community that is committed to seeing the best and to creating a lot of space for your human, authentic expression. Whoever you are, whatever you are, we love it. If no one has told you today that they love you, I love you. God bless you.
Thank you for watching this message today. I'd like to invite you to join us in person here on campus at Unity of Houston for Sunday morning or Wednesday evening services. If you can't be with us here on our campus, you can still join us live on Facebook or on our website, unityhouston.org, Sunday mornings at 11 a.m. Central.